is the right time. So if you permit, sir, we can start.
Yes, please go ahead.
Okay. So before you start, I welcome you, very warm welcome from ICMR, NMR, and Mera India, and thank you very much for giving us your valuable time. So before you start, I would like to read a few lines about about you. So this is for the audience. So for Professor Shyam Sundar is recognized as one of the world's leading researchers in visceral leishmaniasis. He joined Institute of Medical Sciences at BHU in 1972 as a medical student, and today he is a very proudly distinguished professor of medicine at IMS. He is also a visiting professor at JIPMER Pondicherry. Professor Shyam Sundar has made seminal contribution in the field of visceral leishmaniasis over his career. His pioneering work on rapid RK39 strip test resulted in the global application of this tool for the diagnosis of Kala-Azar. It is being used in national programs of India and several other countries. He described several breakthroughs in the treatment of Kala-Azar, developed first orally effective miltefosine for the treatment of visceral leishmaniasis, and this was used for the Kala-Azar elimination program in India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. Now it is being used worldwide as well. His revolutionized the treatment of VL by introducing single-dose treatment with liposomal amphotericin B, which is now most preferred according to WHO recommendation and is being used in the control program in India. He was first to successfully conduct multiple drug therapy for VL, which has also proved by WHO as the second most preferred regime. He established a unit of infectious diseases at BHU with special emphasis on leishmaniasis and developed a field unit in Bihar, which imparts free diagnosis and treatment of leishmaniasis. Professor Shyam Sundar has published around 625 papers with more than 36 citations. He has received several national and international grants. He is a founder, president of Leishmania Research Society India, and also a member of 50 expert committee advisory groups and commissions. He is a fellow of Royal College of Physicians of London, International Fellow of American Society of Tropical Medicine and Hygiene Fellow of World Academy of Science, and several others. He has won several international and national awards for his research, including Visitors Award for his work in the area of diagnosis and treatment of Indian Kala-Azar from the Honorable President of India in 2016, including B.R. Ambedkar Sanitary Award from Indian Council of Medical Research in 2015. In the year recently 2020, as per the study conducted by Stanford University, Professor Shyam Sundar was ranked as first in India and seventh in the world in the field of tropical medicine. And we are very grateful and honored to have him today with us. And this is the sixth lecture of our lecture series. And with this, I give now over to Professor Shyam Sundar. Sir, please.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm sharing my screen. Thank you very much, Sachin, for your kind words. I'm really grateful to ICMR, especially Manju Rahi and yourself for inviting me for this lecture. So I will be discussing some updates about visceral leishmaniasis around the world. This is a picture from an endemic region of Bihar, where you can see straw houses, a lot of animals, animal excreta, and young children. Very conducive environment of for sandfly proliferation. This disease has clinical and epidemiological diversity. So every endemic zone has its own flavor as far as the disease is concerned and the treatment is concerned. It is endemic in 79 countries, and population at risk is 350 million, and incidence per year is now about 50,000 or less. if you see this picture, India has, it is the state of endemicity of visceral leishmaniasis worldwide. India has 18% share. It used to be more than 50% for years and years. But now with the elimination program, the share of India has gone down, thankfully. Then Africa has at the moment the greatest load, followed by Latin America, especially Brazil. If you look at the country-wise incidence, Sudan leads the list. This is for 2020 with 2,500 patients. Then India, then Brazil, and then other African countries like Kenya, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Sudan, South Sudan. This is just, I wanted to show you the status of visceral leishmaniasis over these about 40 years, and where you can see that it has a cyclical pattern with several peaks, one peak in 78 and then in 92 and then 2007. So it was all at 15 years interval. And now after elimination program, you can see the dip. We will discuss this again. But some people think that it could be a part of the natural cycle. The disease transmission is anthropootic, that is man to man. Vector is sandfly, phlebotomine, sandfly, phlebotomine argentipus for India. And then the zoonotic VL is, the dog is the reservoir and other mammals also. And basically it is found in Mediterranean region and Latin America. And the organism is L. infantum. Now, as far as clinical features are concerned, fever and splenomegaly are the hallmark of this disease. They are very important features. Then there is a pancytopenia and other manifestations, but most important is splenomegaly and fever. This is a condition where there is immunity is suppressed, and this leads to many secondary infections. Pneumonia is very important, tuberculosis, and then multisegmental herpes zoster, scabies, and GI infections. If you don't treat these patients, they will die. This is just a picture of one of our patients where you can see that the hugely enlarged spleen, almost trying to come out of abdomen, and this girl was very, very sick. How do we make a diagnosis? Diagnosis is by gold standard is parasite demonstration in splenic smears or bone marrow smears or lymph node aspirates. In India, splenic and bone marrow smears are done, are examined. But these, all the three procedures are quite risky, painful, and they need expertise. Splenic aspirate especially, there is a mortality of 1 in 1,000, 1,000 procedures. And then there is you can culture these aspirates, and they are highly sensitive. They give you very good diagnostic equipment, but unfortunately, this can only be done in a very specialized lab, and so it is not available to all the areas. Very few labs do the culture of leishmania. This is just to show you how the splenic aspirate is being done in the field, and this is how the LD bodies look like. Inside the macrophage, you can see that more than 100 LD bodies are there, and their characteristic is a nucleus and a small chytoplast, darkly stained chytoplast. And every cell will have like this. So that is, and there is nothing which resembles this. Then coming to the serodiagnosis of VL, the serological method like ELISA, IFAT have been used, especially in Europe, very efficiently. Unfortunately, there is a need for equipment, costly equipment, continuous electricity, and expertise. And these are major handicaps, so it is not popular in endemic region at all. Direct agglutination test is slightly better in the form that the stained parasites are exposed to patient's serum, and then overnight, after overnight incubation, you read the test. Unfortunately, again, multiple pipetting and high turnaround time makes it difficult for field application. RK39 has been an important step in the serodiagnosis of visceral leishmaniasis. It is a 39 amino acid antigen encoded by 117 base pair gene in the kinesin region of mastigotes of L. infantum, and it is also conserved in Endonomani. With ELISA, there was high sensitivity and specificity. Rapid strip test was developed using this antigen, and now the results are available in 10 minutes. And it had high sensitivity and specificity. And these are the two pictures of two types of K39 rapid test. And you can see that in the right three strips, there are two bands, and they suggest that this patient is positive for K39 and positive for the infection. And these are controls, and these are control bands. Then this is the other one, on the right side. This is a cassette form of K39 strips. It is slightly expensive as compared to the simple strips. In a meta-analysis, François Chapuis analyzed the sensitivity and specificity of this test. And as you can see, there is very high sensitivity as well as specificity of this test. Unfortunately, this test is not very sensitive as far as Africa is concerned. So in Africa, the sensitivity is only about 85%. Sensitivity of, as I said, is very high sensitivity and specificity, but in East Africa and Europe, it is 85 and 83%, and 90% in Latin America. In controls with other diseases from non-endemic region, the specificity is excellent, almost 100%. Unfortunately, some individuals exposed to leishmania in the endemic region, they are healthy, but they may test positive. So one has to be very clear that this patient is highly suspicious of Kala-Jar as far as clinical pictures are concerned. Then only these strip tests should be employed. Recently, a new antigen, RK28, has been discovered, and RDTs are being made, and it has sensitivity, high sensitivity in Asia as well as in East Africa. It is yet to be validated fully. Then coming to the PCR in diagnosis of VL, PCR is a highly sensitive and can also be employed as a test of cure. However, as with the K39, many of the healthy individuals will be PCR positive. So it has to be interpreted in light of the clinical picture. Recently, LAMP, loop-mediated isothermal amplification, has become available, and it is being evaluated and validated by ICMR study, and it may be likely to be useful in diagnosis of VL. Unfortunately, again, the cost is very high. You need high technology, and it limit the use of PCR for routine diagnosis in endemic regions. Now coming to the treatment, for past 7 decades, antimony, pentavalent antimony, were the sheet anchor of the treatment of leishmaniasis, all forms of leishmaniasis, with amphotericin B and pentamidine as second-line drug in visceral leishmaniasis. The past 2 decades have brought about the approval of miltefosine, paromomycin, and liposomal amphotericin B in the treatment of VL. And these drugs largely increase the therapeutic options, but they all have some limitations, which we will be discussing. Their efficacy varies considerably by geographical region. So it's not that a drug which is effective in South Asia will be effective in Africa or in Latin America. In India, actually, several workers in 70s reported that the currently used regimen at that time, 6 to 10 days of 10 milligram per kilo of pentavalent antimonials, was not curing with about 30% patients relapsing. Now, periodically, there was upward revision of the duration and doses, but it did not succeed. I'll show you later. And from Nepal also, adjoining Bihar areas, the antimony resistance was noted by Dr. Rizal. So this is just to show you the various studies from India. And as you can see that the efficacy has gone down from 96% with 600 milligram of antimonials given for 20 days. And then only it has gone down to about 35 to 40% in recent years, where 20 milligram per kilo, a high dose, was used for 30 days. And the mortality was 3 to 5% in these studies. So on 29th August 2000, Indian National Expert Committee recommended use of amphotericin B as first-line drug in the areas of antimony resistance if there are more than 10% unresponsiveness. What is amphotericin B? Amphotericin B is a Pauline antibiotic, and it is used 0.75 to 1 milligram daily or alternate days for 15 to 20 infusions for treatment of VL. Unfortunately, infusion reactions are almost universal. Thrombophlebitis is common, and occasionally nephropathy might occur. Sometimes serious toxicities like hypokalemia, myocarditis, and even death can occur with amphotericin B. The cure rate is very good. It is excellent, in fact, and nearly 100% of the patients are cured by amphotericin B deoxycholate. This is just a picture of the ward, our treatment site, where you can see that the bottles are hanging here with a yellow fluid, and this is amphotericin B solution being infused to these patients. The problem with this treatment was patient has to be hospitalized for 5 to 6 weeks. There was, as I told you, infusion reactions are universal. You have to monitor these patients, especially renal function and potassium, etc. So overall, it becomes very expensive. The treatment cost may go up to $4,400 US. It was not affordable to most patients, and it could not be implemented, though it was recommended by National Committee. It could not be implemented at peripheral health facilities. Then, as miltefosine is concerned, miltefosine is was discovered as an anti-neoplastic drug. Unfortunately, it had high GI adverse events, so the use was not propagated further. It had excellent anti-leishmanial activity, both in experimental animals and in vitro. And it was available for human consumption. So we did a pilot dose escalating study where we saw that about 100 to 100 milligram per day for 28 days of miltefosine cured 93% patients. Then we combined the results of 3 phase 2 studies and the phase 1 study, and we found out that 100 milligram for 28 days will cure 97% of the patient. Then a phase 3 trial was designed with patients of number being 299 in the miltefosine group and 99 in amphotericin B group. And you can see that the cure rate with miltefosine was 94%, and that with amphotericin B classical was 96%. So it was effective, and we concluded that miltefosine in doses of 100 milligram for more than 25 kg weighing patients, or other doses for less weighing patients after meals for 4 weeks cures 94%, as I just told you. Side effects are quite common. GI side effects are very common, and vomiting and diarrhea occurred in about 1/3 to 40% patients. There are transient asymptomatic elevation of hepatic enzymes. Occasionally, very occasionally, skin allergy and nephrotoxicity are seen. It cannot be used in pregnant females. It is potentially teratogenic. So patient has to be on contraception and for 4 months more, because of the fact that this drug has a half-life of 7 days. In India, this drug was approved in 2002, and in 2005, India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, they formed an alliance and launched an elimination program to bring down the incidence of Kala-Azar below 1 per 10,000 by 2015. Of course, we could not do that by 2015, so the targets have been revised periodically. And the components was diagnosis by RK39 rapid test and treatment with oral miltefosine for 4 weeks. And of course, vector control and health education was also part of it. Efficacy of miltefosine in Africa and Brazil. If you see here, in Ethiopia, the initial cure rate and mortality rates were not significantly different between miltefosine and pentavalent antimonials. Again, in a study from Sudan and Kenya, definitive cure was 72% with miltefosine alone, given for 28 days, whereas for Ambisome combination with miltefosine, the cure rate was only 77%. So this was actually not very satisfactory. In Brazil, miltefosine efficacy was absolutely unsatisfactory, with 42% patients only responding to 4 weeks of treatment and 68% for 6 weeks of treatment period. So there are several plus points with miltefosine. It is a big oral advantage, so it can be used in program easily. But the higher duration of treatment for 28 days makes non-compliant very common. And of course, it has other deficiencies like potentially teratogenic, has a long half-life, so amenable to resistance. And it's not effective in all foci. It is as effective in South Asia. It is not effective in Africa and Latin America. Then coming to another drug, perimomycin. It is an aminoglycoside with very good anti-leishmanial activity. And in several phase 2 studies were done in mid-90s, where it was shown that 93% patients will be cured with perimomycin if you give it for 16 milligram per kilo for 3 weeks. And it was appeared to be a good alternative to antimony as a first-line treatment. It was produced in India, and it is the cheapest anti-leishmanial drug available. Then for 10 years, nothing was done about perimomycin. Then Gates Foundation funded this phase 3 study where 501 patients were treated with perimomycin as compared to 166 by classical amphotericin B, and the cure rate was very good, 94.6%, again matching miltefosine performance, and it was quite well tolerated, no significant toxicity, no nephrotoxicity, reversible ototoxicity, and it was effective in patients who had earlier failed treatment. So this appeared to be a good, affordable drug for the treatment of Kala-Azar. Then coming to perimomycin in East Africa, from Sudan, this study is from Sudan, where you can see that only 84% patients were cured with 21 days of 20 milligram. It is not 15, 20 milligram of perimomycin. And in another study from several multi-country study where perimomycin was used 15 milligram for 21 days, only 63.8% patient could be cured. And there are a lot of intra-regional variation. As you can see in Sudan, one area had 14.3, another area had a cure rate of 46.7. Similarly, in Ethiopia, one area had 96% cure rate, whereas other area had 75%. In Africa, the Jill Seaman initially showed that 17 days of perimomycin with sodium antimony gluconate would cure high number of patients, 95% patients, and bring down the adverse reaction. And then there are several studies done by the workers in Africa, and where you can see that it has very good efficacy, And now it is a standard of care in Africa for treating visceral leishmaniasis for SSG plus PM for 17 days. Then coming to the lipid-associated amphotericin B in visceral leishmaniasis, it is an exciting development. You can give a large dose because of its safety profile. Unfortunately, it is highly expensive. And at that time, usually various preparations are available, but liposomal only Ambisome and one Indian preparation Fungisome are available. Whereas others are ABLC like lipid complex or amphotericin B colloidal dispersion. This was a study, head-to-head study, where we compared classical amphotericin B with liposomal amphotericin B and ABLC. And here you will see that the cure rate was very similar in all the three groups. AmphoB patients were treated for 1 month, and these two groups with lipid amphotericin B were treated for 10 days. The important finding in this study was the low toxicity of liposomal amphotericin B. 71% patients had no infusion reaction as compared to only 2% with amphotericin B, and the infusion reactions episode were much lower, significantly lower with liposomal amphotericin B as compared to AmphoB or ABLC. I'm not showing you the data, but in a study where earlier we had shown that 3.75 milligram total dose would cure 89% of the patients. So we thought, why not use a single dose of liposomal amphotericin B? And we did this study comparing it with the 5-day treatment. And we found that it is quite effective. More than 90% patients were cured. Then we tried to increase the dose so that we could have higher efficacy. And unfortunately, we could not get the higher efficacy by using higher dose. And then, of course, there is another study from Dr. Thakur where 15 milligram per kilo was used in 17 patients. At that time, the cost of this drug was $200 for a 50 milligram vial. In 2011, Gilead announced that it will supply the Ambisome, liposomal amphotericin B, at 8% of its cost, initial cost. So this drug became very relevant, and we did a single dose amphotericin B study for the treatment of VL, where we used 10 milligram per kilo. And you can see the efficacy was quite good. It was comparable to the amphotericin B group, where the treatment was given for 1 month. And we had a cure rate of around 96% in both the arms. In 2013, the elimination strategy in South Asia was revised, and single dose liposomal amphotericin B replaced miltefosine in the elimination program. And this resulted in very rapid decrease in the cases in India. And here you can see that up to 2021 figures are partial. Up to 2020, the case load has come down from 9,200 to about 2,000. Liposomal amphotericin in Europe, as you can see in this study, these studies that if you use 18 to 21 milligram of liposomal amphotericin B, the cure rate was 98 to 100% in all the studies, all these studies. So the drug is now recommended 18 to 21 milligram in Europe. Then in Africa and Brazil, it's 21 milligram of here, it is 21 milligram of Ambisome cured 87% patients. Whereas in another study, it was not a very good study. And of course, they showed 62% with 14 milligram in Brazil. In Africa, again, this was a small study where 14 milligram cured 100% of patients, but it could not be replicated. And in a dose of 24 milligram, total dose of 24 milligram, 88% patients could be cured. In East Africa, multi-country study, this is a multi-country study with the use of 21 milligram of total dose, 85% patient could be cured. So the recommended dose for East Africa is 30 milligram per kilo total dose, and with Latin America is 21 milligram respectively. Coming to the multi-drug treatment of VL, since these drugs in a shorter courses have high efficacy, I'm not showing the data. So we tried to combine liposomal amphotericin B with miltefosine for various durations. So it was a single dose AmBisome 5 milligram or 3.75 milligram with 7 to 14 days of miltefosine. And you can see the cure rate was very good, above 95% in all the 4 arms. And this was first study with modern drugs. Then we did a phase 3 study with these combinations. Amphotericin B alone was given in 157 patients, and then liposomal amphotericin B plus 5 milligram plus miltefosine for 7 days, LAM for single dose 5 milligram, and paromomycin for 10 days, and miltefosine and paromomycin for 10 days each. And again, the cure rate was really very pleasing, excellent cure rate, and we had a more than 97% efficacy of these combinations. So what are the therapeutic options for VL? In South Asia, LAM single dose 10 milligram per kilo or multi-dose 15 milligram in divided doses. In East Africa, at the moment, antimony plus paromomycin for 17 days. For Mediterranean and countries and Latin America, the liposomal amphotericin B is given for 18 to 21 days. And these are the first choices, and then there are second and third options. Then coming to the HIV-VL co-infection, in immunosuppressed due to advanced HIV infection or due to other drugs or due to immunosuppressive treatment for other conditions, the relapses are very frequent. The lower CD4 count in HIV-infected patients, it predisposes the patient to several hundred times to development of VL. It is a AIDS-defining illness in the endemic region. In Mediterranean region, where Leishmania is hypoendemic and a disease of mainly of infants and children, when HIV outbreak occurred in Europe, it was found that the VL infected patients were dominantly adults. And this is, you can see that this disease is reported from 42 countries, the co-infection all around the world. So what is the clinical features? The clinical features are the classical features in 75% patients: fever, pancytopenia, hepatosplenomegaly, and GI manifestations like dysphagia or odynophagia, gastralgia, diarrhea, mucositis, etc. are very are there if the CD4 count is low. The diagnosis is again the serology. It has sensitivity of 50% only in Europe. However, most Indian patients are positive with RK39 rapid test. So this is quite different. And initially it was not recommended to do serology for HIV-VL co-infection, but now in India it is relevant. Then of course you can demonstrate MS-triggered bisplenic or bone marrow smears, and also you can use Buffy code to demonstrate these Leishmania donor antibodies. And PCR, as I already told you, in immunocompetent individuals, it becomes very important. Unfortunately, the handicaps I have already described. So what is the treatment? Treatment is very similar to the immunocompetent patients. As I told you, relapses are a rule. And I remember one of our colleagues had seen patients with 33 relapses. It was not, of course, not in India, but 33 relapses. So you can imagine these patients carry the parasite in their body for a long, long time. And they are actually walking super spreaders. and of the disease. So it is very important that we treat HIV-VL co-infection. We find out, we treat them efficiently. For Europe, the liposomal amphotericin B is used in 4 milligram per kilo on 10 doses spread over 38 days, and the cure rate is quite high, about 90%. For other regions, there are new WHO guidelines which have come into 2021, where for East Africa, the co-infected patient should be treated with Ambisome 30 milligram given over 11 days, plus miltefosine given for 28 days, or plain liposomal amphotericin B only for 40 milligram total dose in 24 days. The same recommendations for South Asia is Ambisome 30 milligram over 11 days. Here, the miltefosine is given for 14 days instead of 28 days in Africa. And or you use again same 40 milligram of Ambisome over 24 days. There are some studies which have shown that maintenance therapy helps in postponing the relapses, and these are basically observational studies, no RCT, and it is recommended that you give either ABLC or Ambisome or pentamidine in these doses, every 3 to 4 weeks. Again, the important feature of this co-infection treatment is you must treat them with effective antiretroviral therapy. And this, now it is said that if you have these patients CD4 count high, the chances of relapses are much less. Then coming to my last leg of my talk, post-Kala-Azar dermal leishmaniasis. In India, 5 to 10% patients, in I should say South Asia, 5 to 10% patients who had leishmaniasis earlier, with Kala-Azar earlier, they develop these PKDL lesions several months to several years later. In Sudan, it can occur concurrently, what is known as para-Kala-Azar PKDL, and then it can occur immediately, and it affects a high proportion of patients, about 60% of the patients. The skin manifestations are nodule, macule, I'll show them, and then mixed picture. In Sudanese PKDL, 84% patients cure themselves, so they do not require any treatment. But in India, this does not occur. The patient has to be treated. And this is, you can see that here, there are nodules here. You can see almost entire face is studded with nodules, and there is a reddish hue on the face, and this is nodular variety. And then this is a macular variety where you can see deep pigmented patches all over the body. And this is quite an advanced case. Otherwise, the patches are not that many as you can see here. And then these are the children from Africa, where you can, from Sudan, you can see it's quite different. Macronodular lesions in both these children, which is quite different from what we see in India. Diagnosis is essentially clinical. There should be a typical history of VL. Some patient may not give you a history of VL. They are serologically positive with RDTs, more than 90% patients. You can demonstrate parasites in the slit skin smear as you do in leprosy. And the culture of aspirate from the lesion can be done of the parasite. Of course, the contamination rate is very high. And then, of course, PCR by nucleic acid amplification. So the treatment of PKDL has been very heroic earlier, where you give 120 days of antimony, pentavalent antimonials, or 60 days of amphotericin B infusion over 100 days. So these are really very, very high doses, and there are chances that we may be killing many of these patients. So in 2010, when the WHO's recommendations were released, the recommended treatment, also in elimination program, recommended 12-week treatment with miltefosine. But now it has been noticed that some of these patients, although rare, but these patients do develop ocular toxicity, and they can be really very bad. They can make them blind. So there is second thought of this 12-week treatment. Now the trials with shorter 2 to 3 week regimens of Ambisome and miltefosine combo are ongoing, and enrollment has already been completed. This study was sponsored by DNDi, and in few months we'll know the results because they are in the follow-up. We have to do 1 year follow-up in PKDL patients. So my friend, to summarize, during last 2 decades, significant changes occurred in the management of VL. The rapid strip test K39 and K28, it is now possible to diagnose Kala-Azar in 10 minutes. Miltefosine is the first oral compound used successfully in VL treatment in South Asia. And now it is also being used in other endemic regions for all forms of leishmaniasis. Now, Ambisome is being used increasingly in all the endemic foci. In South Asia, single dose became the treatment of choice. It was a game changer. And then its use in Kala-Azar elimination program had excellent results, as I showed you earlier. Multi-drug treatment is being employed to shorten the duration of treatment and to delay the development of resistance. So you can treat these patients in 10, 11 days as compared to, say, 30 days of antimonials or classical amphotericin B for 30 days. Now there are new WHO guidelines which have been framed only this year, and they are actually under process of publication for HIV-VL co-infections in Asia and Africa, and trials with short course combo therapy of PKDL are also underway, as I told you, and soon we will know the results. I thank you for a very kind attention. And this is a picture recently had Dev Deepavali festival at Ganges. So you can see the ghats littered with these nice lights over Ganges. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
We have some questions from the audience. If you allow, if you permit, may I ask on behalf of them?
Yes, please.
So this is from Dr. Manju Rahi. She's asking, she's giving you thank you for overall comprehensive picture of the disease. Initially, you showed a graph showing significant dip in the burden in India. And you said you will explain why some experts say this is cyclical or how expected trajectory of the disease is. So is there a chance of resurgence? Elimination efforts are underway and quite successful. What's your views on that?
I agree with you. And there are actually some experts are skeptical that it is a 15-year cycle, which occurred in 2007 earliest peak, and now in 22, 23 you expect another peak. But I personally don't believe this. I believe this is the good work done by our 3 countries, India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, so that we have reached an elimination stage. Bangladesh has already achieved it, Nepal has nearly achieved it, and India 98% of the blocks have achieved it. So I think it is due to elimination program, not cyclical.
Okay. And what would be the last mile challenges for visceral leishmaniasis elimination for India?
Actually, the ideal way is to stop eradication, but this is not possible because of the vector. The as I told you, that we have seen that HIV-VL co-infections and PKDL, they spread the disease very efficiently, especially HIV-VL co-infections. And then the patient themselves, they act also reservoirs. So longer they keep the parasite in their body, there are greater chances of dissemination and outbreaks. So I think AmBisome has brought one thing, that is a very quickly brought down the levels of parasites, so that the dissemination is limited.
Okay. So another is AmBisome resistance. Is it being monitored like how anti-malarial drugs resistance is regularly monitored?
No, I don't think it is being monitored. The question is very good, but only time will tell. We are having some rumors of one or two patients failing AmBisome treatment, but of course, the largely almost more than 95% patients are responding to this treatment. But of course, it is ideal to monitor the amphotericin B resistance, which is very difficult, in fact, in laboratories.
Okay, so sir, what's the disease status if you see in some pregnant women, and is there any connection with the malnutrition as well?
I think yes. I mean, many of a good proportion of patients are malnourished, and as far as the pregnant women are concerned, we are now treating them with amphotericin B or liposomal amphotericin B. Earlier, they were treated with antimonials, and there was a fear of precipitation of labor or loss of pregnancies. But now I think these drugs, amphotericin B-based drugs, are quite safe to use in pregnancy.
Okay, so one more question is therapeutic trials results are a bit low in African foci, that is Sudan, as compared to other areas. So are leishmaniasis strain quite genetically different between the areas, and that could be a reason to explain these discrepancies?
I completely agree with the questionnaire that I also think that it is the name is L. donovani, but the parasite is different. It behaves so differently as far as even diagnosis is concerned, or every drug except for antimonials, every drug has handicap being used in Africa. You have to use higher doses. Some drugs just don't work. And not only in Africa, even in Latin America, the response is not as seen in South Asia.
Okay, so with this, I would like to stop here this presentation, and thank you very much, sir, again for your time. I know your time is quite busy. You have a busy schedule, but thank you very much for being with us. Okay, so is the last question is just arrived. If you permit, may I ask? This is based on your vast experience. If someone want to know the model for elimination, then what's your view?
Model of elimination, I don't understand the question, in fact, but I think at the moment the target for elimination is 1 per 10,000, less than 1 per 10,000 patients, and I don't know what this questionnaire is asking.
This is for disease elimination. Model for disease elimination.
Model for disease elimination. Actually, the elimination is the word used, but it is not complete eradication of the disease. So once we talk of eradication, then it is really challenging, more challenging than elimination.
Yeah. So this was the last question, sir, and thank you very much for being with us. And I would request, whenever you are in Delhi, I'm sure the situation is better, pandemic situation is better. So please visit us here at NMR. We would like to hear you personally also.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, audience.